The lecture hall floated in silence as the holographic display flickered to life. David Reed sat in the back row, trying not to look too impressed. After all, humans were the newcomers here. They had only joined the Galactic Council 3 months ago, and everyone still watched them like curious children. Instructor Helm spread her wings slightly as she addressed the room. The bird-like alien had feathers that shimmered between blue and green, and her voice carried a musical quality that made even boring topics sound interesting. Today, she was teaching about dead languages, languages that nobody in the galaxy could speak anymore. This is why we preserve everything, Helm said, gesturing at the walls of the archive station around them. Civilizations rise and fall, languages disappear. But here we remember. David glanced at Olivia Grant sitting beside him, his fellow human and closest friend on the station. She was supposed to be paying attention to the xenoarchaeology aspects of the lecture. Instead, she was scribbling notes about the architecture of the hall itself. Now, let me show you our greatest mystery, Helm continued. The hologram changed, displaying a series of symbols and characters that glowed with soft amber light. This language was found on 12 different worlds across the outer spiral. The ruins date back 10,000 years. We have entire temples covered in this script. Yet after 100 centuries of study, we have barely translated even the basics. Around the room, various alien species leaned forward with interest. A reptilian Ken administrator nodded knowingly. Several insectoid students clicked their mandibles in what David had learned was their version of taking notes. The structure is fascinating, Helm said, pointing to specific symbols. We believe these are numbers. These might be directional markers. But the rest? She shook her head, her crest feathers drooping slightly. The rest remained silent. David felt his chest tighten. He blinked, looking at the symbols again. Then again, his mouth went dry. No, it couldn't be. The civilization that created this was clearly advanced. Helm continued. They had space travel. They had complex architecture. They spread across multiple star systems. And then they vanished. No descendants, no genetic traces, just these ruins and this unreadable script. David's hand slowly rose. He didn't even realize he was doing it until Olivia elbowed him gently. What are you doing? She whispered. He couldn't answer. His brain was racing too fast. Helm noticed his raised hand. Yes, David Reed. Correct. Do you have a question? Every head in the room turned to look at him. David stood up slowly, his legs feeling weak. He pointed at the holographic display with a shaking finger. That's Portuguese, he said quietly. The room remained silent. Helm tilted her head in confusion, a gesture that looked oddly bird-like. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? David cleared his throat and spoke louder. That's Portuguese. Ancient Portuguese. I can read it. The silence broke. Multiple species began speaking at once in their various languages. The Ken administrator stood up, his scales flashing red with agitation. Olivia grabbed David's arm. Are you sure? She hissed. David, are you absolutely sure? He nodded, unable to look away from the symbols. I studied Old Earth languages in university. That right there. He pointed to a section of the script that says Estastralis. It means stars. And that word is Jonatada. Journey. Star journey. Helm's wings spread wide. A sign of shock among her people. That's impossible. These ruins predate your civilization by thousands of years. Humans didn't even have written language when these temples were built. I know, David said, his voice barely above a whisper. But I can read it. That phrase there, the one you marked as unknown. It says explorers. The room erupted. Some aliens shouted that he was lying. Others demanded proof. The Ken administrator was already speaking. Rapidly into a communication device calling someone. Helm raised a wing for silence. Her large eyes studied David carefully. Come here, please. To the front. David walked down the stairs between the rows of seats. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. Olivia followed close behind him, loyal as always. At the front of the room, Helm changed the holographic display. A new image appeared showing a different section of temple wall. The symbols covered the entire surface in neat, organized rows. Read this, Helm said. Her voice was calm, but her feathers had flattened against her body. If you can, David stepped closer to the hologram. The symbols floated in the air before him, solid enough to look real, but transparent enough to see through. He reached out, his fingers passing through the light. His lips moved as he read silently, then aloud. "We came from the blue world," he translated, his voice growing stronger. "Taken by those who walk in light. They gave us the stars, but the stars were not ours to keep. We build these words for those who come after. Remember us. Remember Earth." The last word hung in the air. Earth. His world. The human home world. Helm sat down suddenly, her legs seeming unable to hold her. Around the room, absolute silence reigned. Even the insects had stopped clicking. Olivia grabbed his shoulder. "David, this doesn't make sense. Earth didn't have space travel. 10,000 years ago. Humans were barely forming the first cities." "How I don't know," David said. But he kept reading the symbols, and they kept making sense. Every single one of them. A language dead for 10 millennia. Scattered across 12 worlds that humanity had never reached. And he could read it as easily as a morning newsfeed. The Ken administrator approached them. His scales now a deep purple that David had learned meant serious concern. "You will come with me," he said. "Both of you. The council must hear this immediately." As they left the lecture hall, David looked back at the holographic display one last time. The ancient words glowed in the darkness, waiting. They had been waiting for 10,000 years, waiting for someone to come home and read them. The council chamber was nothing like David had imagined. Instead of some grand hall, he found himself in a circular room with soft lighting and comfortable seating arranged in a spiral pattern. Dozens of species sat in groups, their various forms of communication, creating a strange symphony of sounds, clicks, and lights. Chancellor Bryn occupied the center position, the large crystalline being pulsed with gentle blue light as they spoke, their words translated through devices everyone wore. David's earpiece turned the light pulses into comprehensible speech. "We have reviewed your claims, David Reed," Bryn said. "They are extraordinary. You understand why we must be thorough." "I understand," David replied. He stood in the speaking circle, feeling very small and very alone. Olivia sat in the observer section, unable to help him directly. Captain Rita Moss from the Human Federation military was also present, watching everything with suspicious eyes. Hom stepped forward, her feathers still ruffled from a shock earlier. "I have prepared a test. These are sections of text that no living being has been able to translate. If you are truly reading Portuguese, you should be able to tell us what they say." The holographic display activated. David recognized the script immediately. The flowing characters, the accent marks, the way certain letters connected. It was Portuguese, but old, very old. Some spellings were different from modern versions, but the meaning remained clear. He began to read. "The final ship leaves tomorrow. We have sent word to all 12 colonies, but many will not make it in time. The providers have abandoned us. Without their guidance, our machines fail. Our children forget how to read the star maps. In 3 generations, perhaps less, we will return to the soil." Around the room, various beings shifted in their seats. Some made sounds of surprise. Others remained perfectly still. David continued to the next section. "Let this temple stand as proof. We were here. We traveled the void between suns. We were not born to this, but we learned. If any find these words in the ages to come, know this. We were human. We came from Earth and we tried." Hom's wings drooped completely. "That matches the archaeological context perfectly," she whispered. "The lower levels of the ruins show advanced technology. The upper levels show rapid decline. We always wondered why." Chancellor Bryn's light pulsed rapidly, indicating deep thought. "This presents us with an impossible situation. The ruins on refuge on New Harbour on all 12 worlds. They are dated to approximately 8,000 years before the Common Era by Earth reckoning. Yet, Earth records show no advanced civilization at that time. No space travel, nothing." Captain Moss stood up. "With respect, Chancellor, we need to consider this might be a hoax. Maybe someone planted these ruins recently and created a language. That looks old but isn't." A reptilian scholar named Ken spoke up, his voice dry and precise. We have tested these ruins with every known method. The stones have weathered for 10,000 years. The metal beneath has oxidized according to atmospheric exposure over millennia. The quantum decay in the building materials cannot be faked. These ruins are genuinely ancient. Then how? Moss demanded. How could ancient humans build temples on 12 different planets? David cleared his throat. May I see more of the texts? The historical sections? Bryn's light pulsed in agreement. The hologram changed again, showing what looked like a chronicle or history. David read slowly, translating as he went. In the beginning, they came to us as gods, beings of light and power who walked among us. While we still hunted with stones and sticks, they chose 20,000 of us from different tribes across our world. They took us into the sky, and the sky became our home. They taught us their language, but we kept our own. They taught us to build, to farm the stars, to move between worlds. For 2,000 years, we thrived under their care. Then came the silence. The room had gone completely quiet. Even the background hum of the station seemed to fade away. David kept reading. The providers left without warning. One day they were there, the next day gone. Our teachers, our guides, our gods. We tried to maintain what they had built, but we did not truly understand it. We had learned to use their tools, but not to make them. Within a century, the first colony went dark, then another, then another. We gathered who we could on this world on refuge to make our final stand. But the knowledge slips away like water through our fingers. A young alien student named Tal, who had been sitting quietly in the back, raised a tentacle. So, humans didn't build this civilization. They were given it and then lost it. Olivia added from her seat when their benefactors disappeared. Chancellor Bryn's light turned amber. A color David had learned meant concern. This raises troubling questions. Who were these beings who took ancient humans? Why did they abandon them? And most importantly, where are they now? The scholarly Ken stood again. I move that we classify all information regarding these ruins as restricted. This knowledge could destabilize the entire galactic community. Seconded, another voice called out. David felt panic rising in his chest. You can't hide this. It's history. It's the truth. The truth can be dangerous, Ken said flatly. Imagine what happens when species learn that humans once had a space. Civilization that collapsed. Some will fear you might rise again and seek vengeance. Others will see you as defective, unable to maintain advanced technology. The political implications are vast. Bryn's light pulsed thoughtfully. David, Reed, and Olivia. Grant will be confined to comfortable quarters while we deliberate. This is for your own safety as much as anything else. Confined? Olivia stood up angrily. We are prisoners for telling the truth. You are protected guests. Bryn corrected gently. Please understand. This discovery changes everything we thought we knew about galactic history. We must proceed carefully. Security escorts, tall beings covered in smooth grey skin, approached David and Olivia. Captain Ma started to protest, but Bryn cut her off. Captain, the Human Federation will be kept informed. But for now this matter is under Council jurisdiction. As they were led out of the chamber, David heard the Council erupt into argument behind them. Some voices called for more investigation. Others demanded the information be sealed forever. Holmes's musical voice rose above the others, pleading for academic freedom and the pursuit of knowledge. Their quarters turned out to be a suite of rooms with a view of the stars. Comfortable, but the door was locked from the outside. Olivia paced back and forth, furious. David sat by the window, staring out at the galaxy. Hours passed. They ate food that was brought to them. They tried to access the archive's databases, but found themselves blocked. Everything related to the 12 ruins had been classified, just as Ken had suggested. Night cycle came. The station dimmed its lights to simulate darkness. Olivia had finally fallen asleep on one of the couches, exhausted from anger. David was still awake when he heard the soft sound at the door. A small object slid underneath it, scraping across the floor. He got up quietly and picked it up. A data chip. Standard Council issue. He turned it over in his hands, then carefully inserted it into his personal tablet. The screen lit up with coordinates, and a brief message in Galactic Standard text. Refuge. Western Continent. Temple Complex Alpha. Go there. Find the rest of the story. The truth should be free. Tal David looked at the coordinates. Refuge was the world where the largest and best preserved ruin stood. The council had teams there studying the site, but it was heavily restricted. He glanced at Olivia, still sleeping. Then at the locked door, then back at the coordinates glowing on his screen. The truth should be free. He started planning their escape. The cargo bay smelled like fuel and old metal. David crouched behind a stack of supply crates, watching his workers loaded containers onto various ships. Beside him, Olivia checked her tablet for the third time. That one, she whispered, pointing to a battered freighter at the far end of the dock. The wayfarer, Captain Sam Porter, according to the records Tal sent us. He's not exactly a fan of council regulations. Meaning he's a smuggler, David said, meaning he might help us. Getting out of their quarters had been easier than expected. Tal had included door codes in the data chip. Getting through the station without being spotted was harder. But they had timed their escape during shift change when the corridors were crowded. Now came the difficult part. Convincing a stranger to risk everything for them. They made their way across the cargo bay, trying to look like they belonged there. David wore a borrowed maintenance uniform that was too big for him. Olivia had found a worker's coverall that almost fit. The wayfarer's loading ramp was down. A thin man with grey hair and suspicious eyes stood at the top supervising the loading. When he saw David and Olivia approaching, his hand moved to something at his belt. Probably a weapon. Captain Porter, David called out. Who's asking? The man's voice was rough, like he'd spent years breathing recycled air. People who need to get to refuge. People who can pay. Porter looked them up and down. You're the humans everyone's looking for. The ones who can read the old language. David's heart sank. You've heard. Whole station's heard. Council's offering a reward for information leading to your location. Porter scratched his chin. Pretty good reward, too. Olivia stepped forward. We can pay better, can you now? Porter smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. What's a couple of fugitive researchers going to pay me with? Knowledge, David said. The location of 12. Ancient ruins filled with technology. That nobody in the galaxy understands. Technology that I can read the instructions for. That made Porter pause. His eyes narrowed. You're serious? Completely. Porter looked past them at the busy cargo bay. Then back at them. Get on board quickly before the security scanners do their next sweep. They climbed the ramp fast. Inside, the ship was cramped and cluttered, but clean. A strange alien worked near the engine room, her insectoid body covered in tool belts. She looked up as they entered, her compound eyes reflecting the light. Captain, she said, her voice buzzing. Who are they? Passengers. Nera. The kind we don't log in the manifest. Nera clicked her mandibles together. The human fugitives. I knew it. Problem? Porter asked. No problem. Just making sure I get hazard pay for this run. Despite her words, Nera's tone seemed almost amused. Porter showed them to a small cabin near the back of the ship. Stay here during takeoff. Once we are clear of the station, you can move around, but if council ships stop us, you hide in the smuggling compartments. Understood. They nodded. 2 hours later, the wayfarer lifted off from a station. David felt the gentle push of acceleration as they left the docking bay. Through the small porthole in their cabin, he watched the archive station grow smaller. No alarms. No pursuit. Not yet. In the main cabin, they found another passenger already on board. A tall human man with grey at his temple sat reading from a tablet. He looked up as they entered. Dr. Wesley Hunt. He introduced himself. Historian. I've been studying the colonies since the council first discovered them. When I heard what you said about reading Portuguese, I knew I had to talk to you. He smiled. Lucky for me, I have contacts who told me you might need transportation. How many people know we are on this ship? Olivia asked. More than we'd like. Fewer than the council. Porter called from the cockpit. Now, sit down and strap in. We've got 2 weeks of travel ahead of us. And I just got word that the council's put out an official warrant for your arrest. The journey to refuge was long. David spent most of it studying the data chip Tal had given him. It contained images of the ruins. close-up photographs of the inscriptions, even some preliminary excavation reports. One text caught his attention. It was carved into what appeared to be a warning marker at the entrance to the main temple. Turn back. Those who cannot understand, he translated for the others as they gathered around. What lies within will break your heart. We built these words as a message to our children's children's children. But our children forgot. They forgot the stars. They forgot the sky roads. They forgot everything except the soil beneath their feet. Wesley leaned forward. This fits with some old Earth legends, stories of ancient civilizations that fell. Atlantis, MW, various golden ages. What if those weren't myths? What if they were cultural memories passed down from the survivors who made it back to Earth? Back to Earth. Olivia repeated. You think some of them returned? It's possible, Wesley said. If the civilization collapsed slowly enough, some ships might have made it home. But without the technology to maintain space travel, they would have integrated back into primitive human society. Their stories would become legends over time. Nera entered the cabin carrying tools and wiping her hands on a rag. My people have legends, too, she said quietly, about the first travelers, beings who came before anyone else, who spread across the stars and then vanished. We always thought they were gods or spirits. She looked at David. Maybe they were just people. People like you. On the 10th day of their journey, Porter called everyone.